You should use continuous perfections instead of whole sign ones, as proposed by academics. This is why. So there's two kinds. If you haven't heard already, there's the ones that you've heard about, which is the Hellenistic type, which is where the perfected ascendant is moved through only one sign per year. There's only one perfected Lord of the Ascendant for the entire year. And then there's continuous perfections, which is the same idea, except instead of one sign, it's 30 degrees for the whole year. And so at some point, you're going to have a switch over where it goes from one Lord of the Year to the next Lord of the Year. So you have two perfected Lords of the Year. And if you actually look at the Persian and Arabic texts who directly inherited the Greek astrological practice, almost exclusively use continuous perfections. I've not seen any examples where they use the so-called Hellenistic type. And it's only called Hellenistic by academics today. Valens used it that way, but it was in the context of other techniques that he used, and it made sense there, but I'm not sure it makes sense outside of that context. Now, Abu Mashar calls this perfected ascendant the terminal point, and it, activates planets as it conjoins or aspects them, kind of like some kind of Time Lord technique. And before him, Umar al-Tabari doesn't call it the terminal point, but he basically uses it the exact same way. So this has been in the Persian tradition pretty much since the beginning. And of course, the planets in Lot of Fortune are perfected in the same exact way. It's just, to keep things simple, I'm going to start with the ascendant. That's the easiest way to start with. But you can perfect anything in the chart, technically. It's the same technique. So in nativities, you will find that people with ascendant in the late degrees will find that their perfections happen early. And if it's really late, if it's like, 29 degrees, you'll find that they'll have significations of that house occurring in the prior year. And you think, well, why is that? Well, it's because their perfection actually begins almost a year early, because they will have the Lord of the Year be the next planet from the beginning of the perfection for most of the year. It might be there for a few days or a month or two, but it's going to change over at some point. And so when you're examining solar returns and you're casting directions in solar returns to look at time frames of things and significations of what might happen, we got to make sure to observe the correct Lord of the Year. This is one thing I got wrong, and I could not figure out why sometimes my solar returns just somehow didn't really work. The Lord of the Year there seemed to be some minor transits that would happen, some minor events, but nothing major. I could never figure out why that was until I started using continuous perfections and discovered that I'm in fact using the incorrect Lord of the Year, and I need to be using the next one. So I would imagine you will find similar results in your solar returns and your nativities when you do perfections in this way. One thing I've noticed too is that today's, more academic astrologers, you will find that they'll use perfections and they'll point out different events in people's lives during a particular year when it's convenient. And almost every single example they give, almost every single one that I have found, they use an ascending degree, or they use a person who has an ascendant whose degree is either in the first third or first half or earlier in the ascendant. They almost never use late degree ascendants, and the reason for that is because it doesn't work. So that's what I've noticed. I think if you look, you will notice the same patterns. Now, just to visualize this, I've grabbed some charts here. So if you have on the left ascendant and late degrees of Libra, when you perfect from the first house into the second house, you're going to have a period where you're going to have, at the birthday, it will start in Libra for about a month and a half. It'll be a first house perfection. You'll be finishing up the one from the prior year, and it will be governed by Venus. And then the rest of the perfection will go until the late degrees of Scorpio and will be governed by Mars. That's altogether different from the 1 year, 1 age doctrine given by the academics of today. They oversimplify these things. It makes way more sense that the degree of the ascendant would matter in cases of things like perfections. especially when it's shown that in nativities, you get these things that activate planets. In Umar al-Tabari's method, he specifically states this is what you look at. One of the things you look at in prognostication. You can even include the bound lords if you want to. I have not seen any particular results one way or the other on that, but I know that you can, and some people use it that way. So I'm going to show you that same chart tool. So basically, in Janus, you can take any chart and you can perfect it. You can also do different time frames here, but you can perfect this chart. So you can look at, every year, this ascendant's going to move 30 degrees. But you can also figure out here, like, it's going to start at 26 Libra, and then it's going to advance up to the beginning of Scorpio. When does that happen? Well, that's about a month and a half from here. And you can see as you advance this, it's going to make aspects. Like right now, the ascendant's making, this is just a current chart. This could be a nativity, could be anything. But as you'll see, it makes aspects with, this stellium of planets and Aquarius. And so you can then judge that that's going to do something for the native. And I've found this to be actually remarkably reliable, more so than just, the ascendant through the sign. You can judge, like, if the ascendant's in a particular sign, things are going to happen regarding that house at that time. But timing actual events based on more of the solar return and these aspects. So good luck. I just wanted to mention a very important detail about perfections. They are simple and they are effective, but I think they are a little bit oversimplified. So this is how they actually work, and this is how you're actually supposed to use them.